Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I'm back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I received over the last 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, or considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at fitcosgrove_. All right, let's get started with this week's no filter Q&A with question number 1. Nick, would a 20-minute workout each day make much of a difference to my body in 30 days? I want to start working out, but I don't think I can last more than 15 to 20 minutes in the gym at the moment. Here's the thing, when it comes to lifting weights, it's not about the amount of time that you're in the gym, it's what you do with that time. Okay. And I've talked about this in the past, how you get a lot of people that say they're in the gym for 2 hours, but they're not training for 2 hours. They're screwing around, they're talking to other gym members, they're playing on their phone, they're resting way too long between sets. I work with people that get more done in 45 minutes than people get done in 2 or 3 hours in the gym. Okay. So it's not about how much time you're in the gym, it's what you're doing. It's not the duration, it's the intensity. So to answer that question, 20 minutes doesn't sound like a lot of time. However, if you're going all out and you're doing supersets, you're doing circuit training, you're using your time to the best of your ability, you're going to see results, especially if you're someone who is new to the gym, like yourself. You've never gone to the gym before, or maybe you've taken a prolonged period of time away from the gym. You will see change in your physique. Now, at the same time, even though you're going to the gym for 20 minutes, I wouldn't recommend training every day. Okay. So don't just train for 30 days straight. You still want to give yourself at least 1 to 2 rest days a week. That's important. Okay. Because the muscle recovers and grows when you're resting. So you don't just want to go to the gym every day and train. My recommendation to you would be to put together a training split. You could do, say, chest day 1, back day 2, shoulders day 3, bis, tris day 4, legs day 5, and then take 2 days off and repeat that. Okay. But you can get results. Now, obviously, as you continue along and you progress and you become more advanced with your lifting, you might want to dedicate more time to the gym. But if you know for yourself that you can't last more than 20 minutes, maybe it's just a motivation factor, or maybe you truly are not that fit, that's fine. But as long as you're in there for those 20 minutes and you're going all out, you're going to see change. Okay. But just like I said last week, make sure you put the phone down, keep your headphones on, try to block out any distractions. So don't let people talk to you. Don't answer emails. Don't cruise Instagram. Don't look at TikTok. Just focus on each set, each exercise. Go in with a game plan. That's very important. Always have a game plan. You don't want to be wandering around the gym aimlessly thinking, okay, what am I going to do next? You want to think, okay, I'm going to go in today and I'm going to train legs. I'm going to start with barbell back squats. I'm going to do my walking lunges. I'm going to do my bench step ups. That should be enough for 20 minutes. In and out, done. Okay. So always have a game plan as to what you're going to do, because if you don't have that game plan, well, you're not going to succeed, right? Because you will be wandering around aimlessly and that clock's ticking, especially if you only got 20 minutes. So have a game plan, go in the gym, hit those exercises hard, hit them intensely, keep the phone away, and get out of the gym. That's how you're going to get results. All right. Next question. Nick, do you have any tips for losing belly fat? I can lift a lot of weight during my workouts, but for some reason, I can't seem to get rid of my gut. So you cannot spot reduce. Okay. So spot reduction means you can't just say, hey, I have fat in this one area and I want to lose that. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Okay. That comes down to your genetics. It comes down to your lifestyle. It comes down to your diet. Okay. So I can work with two people and give them the exact same training program, the exact same nutritional plan. They can take that plan and they'll both get completely different results, right? Someone might lose fat faster in their midsection. Someone might lose fat in their lower body faster, right? Someone might build muscle faster in their upper body. The other person might lose or build muscle faster in the lower body. So you can't spot reduce. You can't just go on a crusade of training your abs every day and hope that you lose your belly fat. The belly fat comes down to the diet. Okay. Now, how much of a caloric deficit you have to be in? Well, that again will depend on your genetics, your activity level, how often you're going to the gym, your lifestyle, what you do outside the gym. Do you have a sedentary job? Do you have an active job? But it will depend on those factors. And also, how dedicated you are to the process. I say this to every single person I work with. When I work with someone who says to me, hey, I need to lose 30 pounds, or in your case, I need to lose my belly, my first question to them is, okay, well, how dedicated are you? How disciplined are you going to be with your diet and your training? Right? This is important because if you know that you are not someone who's self-disciplined, then you need to work with a trainer. You need to have a coach. Okay. Because if you don't have that coach and you don't have that trainer holding you accountable, who's going to hold you accountable to get those results? So you can't just go in there and think, I'm going to do a bunch of abs and I'm going to lose my belly fat. Or you can't just say, well, I'm going to go on a severe caloric reduction and I'm going to lose that belly fat. Not necessarily. If you go on a severe diet where you're losing, 3 or 4 pounds a week, there's a good chance the majority of that weight that you're losing is going to be water and muscle and not fat. So your whole goal to lose that belly fat won't happen. Okay. So you want to make sure that just how I always tell people to train smart, you want to eat smart. So when you're putting together a nutritional plan, you want to make sure that you're following a macronutrient rotation program because what happens when you're rotating your macros on a weekly basis, and this is what I preach to people all the time, is that you're constantly keeping your body guessing. Your metabolism will constantly have to keep going because it doesn't know what's coming in next. Are you getting in more carbs, less fats, more fats, less carbs, rotating your protein? This is an incredibly efficient way to diet. Okay. And I do that with all my clients. I do macronutrient rotation on a weekly basis and it works. Okay. So to answer this question, as long as you're disciplined with your diet and your training and you're doing it on a consistent basis, as in, day out, week in, week out, you will eventually lose that belly fat. It just might not be the first place where you lose the fat. You might be that person that loses fat first in your lower body, right? Or in your lower back, or in your shoulders, your chest, wherever. And the last place that you might lose the fat is your belly. That's just your genetics, okay? But you will lose it, okay? You just have to stay disciplined and dedicated to the process. All right. Okay. Nick, are there any exercises that will help me build muscle than other exercises? Yeah, I mean, if you're doing exercises like barbell back squats, deadlifts, bench press, those are what we call compound movements. You're involving more than just one muscle group, right? So they're not isolation exercises. An isolation exercise might be like a bicep preacher curl, right? Where the only muscle group really working is your brachialis. Like, of course, you're going to have stabilizers in the anterior deltoid and your tricep, but the muscle, the primary muscle that's being worked is your bicep. Whereas if you're doing a bench press, you're working pectoralis major, minor, triceps, anterior deltoids. Hell, you're even working your core to some degree. So you're working more muscle groups, which will equate to more muscle gain. However, a good workout routine should include lots of compound lifts, lots of isolation lifts, lots of isometric lifts, and tons of isolateral lifts. Okay, you don't just want to stick to compound lifts. Why? Well, if you're that person that goes in the gym and you squat, bench press, and deadlift 3 or 4 times a week, you're going to gain muscle, but you're also at risk for injury because you're overtaxing those muscles with the same planes and ranges of motion on a by daily basis. Okay. I was going to say bi-weekly, but if you're training like every second day, well, bi-daily, right? So my recommendation is to include tons of, like I said, isolateral, isometric, compound movements, and make sure that you're stimulating those muscle fibers from different planes of motion and different ranges of motion. Okay. So always include your compound lifts. Rule of thumb. Bench press, squats. Most people know I'm not a fan of deadlifts, but if you like deadlifts and you feel that you get benefits from them, by all means do them. But also make sure that, for example, on chest day, you're doing your bench press, but also make sure that you're doing your flies, right? Whether it be dumbbell, cable, or both. If you're doing squats on leg day, also make sure you're doing your lunges and step ups, leg press, hack squats. So you want to make sure you're including tons of different angles into your routine so that you're not doing the same thing over and over again. Because if you do the same thing over and over again, you risk injury. I promise you. I've seen it time and time again. So don't get caught up on that program where you're bench pressing 3 times a week, squatting 3 times a week, deadlifting 3 times a week, because it's a surefire way to get injured. And if you're injured, you can't train. You can't train, you're not going to get results. Okay. Nick, do you think it's possible to lose weight without dieting? I used to have a very unhealthy relationship with food, and after seeing a counselor for a few months, I feel like I have a better relationship with food now. The problem is I need to lose weight, but I don't want to develop an eating disorder from severe dieting again. Okay, smart person. Okay. This is very common, especially with a lot of competitors that I've worked with over the years. They've developed severe eating disorders. And it's almost like a form of anorexia or bulimia. You have people who there's a disorder that we call bigorexia. So it's the opposite of anorexia. And a lot of bodybuilders suffer from this. They never feel like they're big enough. So they have to constantly keep eating more food, doing more drugs, training more often. So more is not better. And same thing with dieting. Less does not necessarily equate to better results. And with less, I mean less calories. Okay. Now, do you have to diet in order to lose weight? Well, it depends what your definition of diet is. I don't really like to use the word diet very often. I prefer to use the word nutritional plan. And what I really try to do with my clients is I really try to implement foods that they enjoy, healthy foods that they enjoy. That doesn't mean I'm going to recommend that they have burgers and fries and pizza, but I'll find some kind of compromise with most people that I work with, whether it be pasta, whether it be bread, whether it be, let's say, certain meats like beef, chicken. I'll always try to compromise with people and say, look, I don't want you having Kentucky Fried Chicken, but if you really can't stomach chicken breasts, I'll consider going with chicken thighs as long as you consider going with the skin off. So we're making compromises, right? So you don't necessarily need to be in a caloric reduction to lose weight. I talked about this actually last week on the Q&A, how a lot of people feel like dieting, they have to, in order to lose weight, they have to go on these severe diets. Not necessarily. If you can get away with losing weight and continue to eat lots of food, lots of whole good foods, that's great. You found the perfect formula. Okay. And in order to find a perfect formula, you have to play around with your diet. You have to play around with your nutritional plan. Okay. So if you're someone like this person and you do have an unhealthy relationship or you had an unhealthy relationship with food, my recommendation is to throw the word diet out of your vocabulary right away. Don't think of it as a diet. Think of it like a nutritional plan. Okay. And think, okay, I don't even care right now if I lose 5 pounds or 10 pounds or 2 pounds. Doesn't matter to me. Right now, I just want to focus on getting in good, clean food sources. And I do that with a lot of people. I'll work with a lot of people who tell me that, they've gone on these crazy diets, whether it's intermittent fasting, whether it's ketosis, whether it's no carbs, completely no carbs for weeks on end. So a different version of ketosis, or whether it's the macronutrient rotations to severe, where they're constantly changing up their diet. They do all these kooky things and it doesn't work. But over time, they develop these unhealthy eating disorders of food. And so what I tell these people, I'm like, okay, well, what we're going to try to do right now, we're not going to count calories. We're not even going to count your macronutrients. We're just going to implement a strategy where you're just eating clean foods for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Let's see how your body changes or just responds to this. And then slowly we start to either reduce macronutrients or increase macronutrients or rotate macronutrients. And that's my recommendation to you is to just try to switch your mindset into thinking, I want to incorporate foods that I enjoy, but at the same time, foods that I know are offering benefits to me. So it's almost like you have to compromise with yourself. Okay. So it can be done. And in my experience, no, you don't have to be in a severe caloric reduction in order to lose weight, especially if you're weight training on a regular basis. And that's important because I've talked about in the past, the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn in a rested state. So it only makes sense that if you want to lose weight and you still want to eat food, you better be in the gym training with weights because again, you're going to build muscle. And the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn, which equates to additional fat loss. So that's a great way to lose weight without having to go into these severe caloric reductions and do hours of cardio on it. So that's my recommendation to you. Uh, Work with a coach or work with a nutritionist, a dietitian that can help you create a program that will allow you to lose that weight without going into an extreme caloric deficit and going back to having an unhealthy relationship with food, because that can be severely problematic, as I'm sure you know. Okay. Okay. Nick, do women need to lift weights to build muscle? I feel like I put on muscle quite easily and want to be careful as to how much I put on in my upper body. Should I just keep the weight light on my upper body and go heavy on my lower body? No, I would not recommend doing this. And I feel like I've had this conversation with tons of women over the years. Most women want to build their lower body. They're fine with going heavy on their lower body. You'll see women doing hip thrusts with 315 pounds. But then when they're doing biceps, you'll see them curling 5 pound weights. I'm not saying all women, but a lot of women do this. And I always think, what the hell are you doing? You're going to create further muscular imbalance. You're going to have this nice, lean, toned, whatever you want to call it, lower body, and you're going to have this upper body that just sticks, right? So you want to make sure you don't have any muscular imbalances. I say the same thing to the guys who don't want to train their legs. I'm like, you want to have these great upper bodies and these stick legs? No. So you want to make sure that you're training every single muscle group evenly. You don't want to create muscular imbalances, never mind for the aesthetics looks, but that can also lead to injuries, right? If you have a strong lower body, but a weak upper body, that could lead to lower back issues, right? Same thing. If you have a strong upper body and you have a weak lower body, that can lead to problems with your knees, could give you patellofemoral syndrome, maybe plantar fasciitis, hip issues down the line. So you don't want to be training one muscle group harder or more intensely or more heavier than the other muscle group. Okay. So again, I do recommend that women try to lift heavy weights. And my definition of heavy weights is a weight that is challenging enough for you to get that 10 to 15 rep range. No one rep maxes. You don't have to be doing crazy intense weights where you need to have a belt and a spotter and all this stuff. But as long as you're challenging yourself and you're getting in that 10 to 15 rep range and it's a struggle, you're not going to build ridiculously large muscles. I talked about a few weeks ago in the Q&A that women just don't have the testosterone in their body to create that large muscle density that you see a lot of guys create. Now, of course, if you're taking anabolic steroids, man or woman, yes, you're going to build muscle. And I talked about the negative side effects from anabolic steroids on women a few weeks ago as well. So if you haven't seen that episode, I believe it was episode 186, where I talked about the steroid usage amongst women and why I don't recommend women use anabolic steroids. However, I do recommend women lift heavy in that 10 to 15 rep range in order to build muscle. You're not going to define, you're not going to tone anything with 5 pound dumbbells. Okay, you're not. If you want to do a warm up set with 5 pound dumbbells, go for it. But if you want to build that nice lean muscle, you have to lift. Okay, you have to challenge yourself. It can't be easy. So I really, truly recommend to all women train your upper body as hard as you train your lower body. Okay. Because you're just going to look silly with these muscular imbalances, this great lower body and this pathetic looking upper body. And I say the same thing to the guys. I have a few guys on my roster who don't want to train legs. I'm like, that's up to you. But just keep in mind, you're going to look ridiculous. You're going to have this nice chest, big delts, big arms, and these tiny little stick legs. That looks stupid. So train all muscle groups evenly and train them with the utmost amount of intensity. Okay. Nick, my friend says that lifting weights will help me look younger and stay firmer. I know that you're a science guy, so from what you know, is there any science backing this claim? Uh, from what I know, no science backing this claim, but from what I see, yes. When you look at women who train with weights versus women that don't train with weights, there's a few attributes that you see in those women that train with weights versus the ones that don't. Okay. You see butts that are up. You don't see saggy butts, right? You see arms that actually are defined. You don't see the bingo arms, the flab back there, right? You do see a little bit of a V taper, that small waist, wider lats, that illusion of the hourglass figure, especially for women that squat, right? You do see a butt that's up and, as I said, lifted. Same thing with the guys, right? There's a big difference between guys that don't lift versus guys that do lift. As far as the age factor, well, that's going to come down to genetics. Not that I think I look super young, but I feel better now as I get ready to go into my 40s than I did in my 20s. I feel more energetic. I sleep better. I train better. I recover better. So I don't know if I necessarily look better, but I definitely feel better. Okay. Now, as far as the aging, I can see how keeping active and fit would help keep you looking young and healthy because we know that exercise reduces cortisol levels. If cortisol levels are high, that's going to age you. Stress ages people, right? So that's one contributing factor to exercising on a regular basis. Again, there's no science saying that if you lift weights, you're going to look younger, right? Because some people do lift weights and they do look older. But again, that's just your genetics, but it can't hurt. Okay. And I do think it definitely helps you look better, right? I mean, who doesn't want to walk around with a smaller waist or more muscles and just feel more confident in their bodies, right? So I definitely see a difference in that with people who do lift weights versus people that don't. Okay. And don't forget too, if you're not lifting weights on a regular basis or you're not even exercising on a regular basis, you're at risk for all kinds of diseases. You know, your immune system is compromised. You yourself are just weaker. So you're more susceptible to those types of diseases or viruses than someone who is active, fit, and healthy. So instead of just looking at the aesthetics, you should be looking at the overall picture and the benefits that lifting weights, doing cardiovascular exercise, and just moving your body on a regular basis offer beyond looking younger and being firmer. But yes, I do. This is my, from what I've seen working with the general population over the years, people who lift weights, they do, in my opinion, they do look better. Yes. Okay. Uh, Nick, I recently had surgery for a herniated disc. I'm now ready to get back in the gym and really need to strengthen my back and core. Are there any specific exercises that you would recommend to do to help build back my strength in these areas? Barbell back squats, hands down. Barbell back squats, in my opinion, are the best core exercise you will ever do. Okay, you can do lying leg raises, you can do hanging leg raises, you can do sit-ups, crunches, bicycles, reverse crunches, you name it, all the abdominal exercises in the world. But none will be as efficient as doing barbell back squats. In your case, because you've had a herniated disc, my recommendation is to wear a belt when you squat. You don't need to go super heavy on barbell back squats. I posted tons of videos of myself squatting over the years. At max I do is 315, which might sound like a lot of weight, but you have to remember, I've been training for 22 plus years. I feel that's a good weight. It's an exercise that I actually feel not just in my quadriceps and my glutes and my hamstrings, but also in my transverse abdominals, rectus abdominals, intercostals, and obliques. It really is a great core exercise. So you're not doing yourself a favor if you're not doing barbell back squats. And the reason I say barbell back squats and not just any squat is because a barbell back squat, you have to stabilize that bar on your back. So it comes down to balance and stability. Well, what do you use for balance and stability? Your core muscles. So in that sense, it's actually one of the best exercises, if not the best exercise you can do for your core. So that is my recommendation to you, to do barbell back squats at least once a week. In addition to barbell back squats, you can add on those other exercises I just mentioned for your abdominal region, your core, which would be lying leg raises, reverse crunches, bicycles, hanging leg raises, hanging knee raises, towel crunches on a Swiss ball with a partner. Those are great exercises to help build up your core. But if you're asking me the best exercise for your core, I would say hands down barbell back squats. Nothing beats it. Okay, a few more questions here. Nick, can you please explain how weightlifting helps boost the metabolism? I've heard you say that the more muscle you have, the more fat you burn. So how much muscle would I need to build in order to burn the most amount of fat? Okay, yeah, you're right. I do say that. I feel like I say that on every episode. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn. I don't necessarily say the more fat you burn, but the more calories you burn in a rested state. Now, weightlifting doesn't necessarily increase your metabolism. You're born with your metabolism. Some people have faster metabolism, some people have slower metabolism. So it doesn't necessarily increase your metabolism. What it does, though, is when you lift weights and you build muscle, just to move your body, you yourself have to exert more energy. So for you to climb a set of stairs, for you to go for a walk, you're moving more poundage, but you're moving solid poundage. So you have to exert more energy to do that. So it's not necessarily that your metabolism is moving faster. It's just that you yourself are exerting more energy because of the additional weight that you have on your body, which is good weight. Someone who's morbidly obese actually will burn more calories too, not necessarily in a rested state, but when they themselves are moving. So someone who's very overweight, for them climbing up a flight of stairs, that might take them 30 calories to do that. Whereas someone who is in good shape and not overweight and someone who is fit and healthy, they may lose 15 calories to do that, right? But if you have more weight on you and it's good weight, muscle weight, you're going to exert more energy, okay? And you're going to burn more calories. So it's a good thing to lift weights for that reason, Okay. And I talked about that earlier with the person who mentioned that they had an unhealthy relationship with food, right? If you yourself want to be able to go out for dinners, have a few drinks, live a normal lifestyle, and be able to eat certain foods that maybe you shouldn't be eating all the time, but every once in a while is okay. Like it's okay to go out and have burger and fries and pizza every so often. That's fine, but you don't want it to affect your waistline. You need to get in the gym. You need to be lifting weights because, again, when you have that muscle mass and you're moving around, you're going to exert that energy. You're going to burn off that burger. You're going to burn off that pizza. You don't have to worry about it. It's gone. It's out of your system. So it's a more intelligent way to exercise. I promise you, this works way better than having to do 2 hours of cardio to burn off that bowl of pasta you had the night before. Okay. It's much more efficient. So, in that sense, it's going to help put you into more of a advantage in order to lose body fat and continuously build muscle. So how much muscle do you need to build? I don't want to put a limit on it, and neither should you. Just keep going to the gym and training with weights. Keep challenging yourself and stay within that 10 to 15 rep range. Okay. But it's not that lifting weights boosts your metabolism. I know there's going to be a lot of claims on that, but from everything I've read over the years and research, there's no scientific data backing that. I'm a firm believer that you're born with the metabolism that you're given. So if you're born with a slow metabolism, you have that slow metabolism for life. But if you start incorporating weight training into your regular routine, along with a good cardiovascular program and monitoring your diet, making sure your diet is dialed in, you should be able to continuously burn calories because you're exerting more energy. And so, regardless of you have that slow metabolism or not, it's irrelevant because you're going to burn more calories because you're exerting more energy with the more muscle mass you have. All right. Last question. Nick, is the muscle confusion method real? And if it is real, how often do you recommend adding it into your workout routine? So, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about muscle confusion. And I've talked about muscle confusion in the past. I think it's important to change up your routine, but you don't need to change it up on a weekly basis. Hell, you don't even need to change it up on a monthly basis. The body, though, is very resilient and our bodies are very intelligent. So if you go in the gym and you do the same thing over and over again, not to mention that that is the definition of insanity, especially if you're expecting to receive a different result. The problem when you're doing something over and over again, you risk injuring yourself. And you yourself mentally kind of become stagnant. Like you think, oh, well, I know I can bench press 315. And then you just kind of limit yourself to that 315. But if you always go in the gym and you start your chest workout, for example, with bench press, and you're hitting that plateau and you're not increasing your weight, then I recommend changing up your routine. Maybe put the bench press in at the end of your workout. Now, obviously, you're not going to be benching 315 at the end of your workout because you're fatigued. But because you're more fatigued, you're going to have to recruit more muscle fibers just to get that weight up. So maybe you're only bench pressing 225. That's fine. But as long as you're challenging yourself, you're going to recruit more muscle fibers. So in that sense, it's great to create that muscle confusion because your muscles don't know what to expect. And now that routine has been broken. So when it comes to muscle confusion, my recommendation with clients is you only want to add in scenarios or change up sequences that create muscle confusion when you've hit a plateau, whether that plateau be with the weight that you're lifting or with the results you're achieving with your physique or not achieving with your physique. Okay. So that's my recommendation when it comes to muscle confusion. But don't just change up the routine or try to confuse your muscles every time you go in the gym just for the sake of it, because that to me is just stupid. There's no reason for that. There's a lot of exercises that I keep into my routines because I feel that they work and I feel that they allow me to keep the muscle that I have. If I wanted to get bigger, and at this point, I don't want to get bigger, but if I did want to get bigger, there would be some changes that I would make in my routines. Okay. I might end my leg workouts with barbell back squats instead of starting with them. It really depends on what your goal is. But if you're happy with the physique you have and you're like, I just want to maintain this physique now. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I want to maintain the physique I have. I don't want to get bigger. I don't want to get smaller. I just want to maintain the physique I have. So I follow the routine that's working for me. If I start to notice that maybe I'm getting too big or maybe I'm getting too small, then I would change something up again. Okay. But if I don't feel like I'm hitting a plateau or I don't feel like, I'm losing results or I'm feeling injured or whatever it is, I keep things the same. Okay. So you don't have to constantly confuse the muscles in order to achieve results. As long as you're listening to your body and you're training methodically and you're training intelligently, you will continuously receive results regardless of what your goal is. So your goal could be to get bigger, could be to get smaller, it could be like me, just to maintain the physique you have and overall keep your overall health and well-being. Okay. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions about muscle confusion, and I think it can be utilized as an efficient tool to build muscle and lose body fat, but you just have to make sure that you implement it into a strategic fashion. Okay. And that way you're going to get the best results with your health physique. Okay. Anyway, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode will be going up on Monday, December the 30th. As a reminder, if you do have any questions related to your diet, training, or supplementation, to please feel free to email me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting my YouTube channel, my online coaching business, our in-house coaching business here in Vancouver, British Columbia. I truly do appreciate all the support. I want to wish you all a happy new year, and I will see you next week in 2025. Bye for now.